Hey, I really appreciate you guys stopping by. Let's talk about innate gifts. If you're watching this video, please be aware. I really hope this content brings value to everyone. But since we live in such a polarized world, it would be naive of me to think that this content will resonate with everyone. So all in all, I hope you are one of the many that finds this video refreshing. And if you're wondering why, please check out my video on astrology. Since this is a new channel, I wanted to share the vision. This is the long-term project. So starting off the project, I'm focusing in on astrology and innate gifts. These are the fundamentals of how we process our understanding of life. The content on this channel will cover many topics. We'll talk about finance, we'll talk about health, we'll talk about the principles of human progress, we'll talk about high-performing teams. The landscape of topics to discuss is almost unlimited. I find myself on the fence about sharing my age. I'm not sure if this is a midlife crisis or what it may be. But I'm in my 40s. I'm not sure if I should be happy about that or sad. But since I've been here for 4 decades, this is 4 decades of observations, 4 decades of note-taking, 4 decades of studies, 4 decades of drawing various conclusions and theories about life. This mental model is meant to depict how everything discussed on this channel is interconnected. Whether we talk about health, finance, self-development, what I found is that there's always a common theme. So this is the project, somewhat of a chronicle of life lessons, all meant to make your life easy. For today's video, I'm looking to cover what does innate mean, trying to simplify the understanding of the word innate, developing versus identifying what it is, the importance of self-communication. I want to take you into my life and give you my personal journey and awakening moment, my primary inspiration for even making this video, and then a key message. So we don't have to spend that much time on defining what it is. Basically, it is something you are born with. It is a programmed characteristic into your DNA, so to speak. The best analogy that I can think of to help solidify the understanding of an innate gift is kind of like having a superpower, something that you're born with. You cannot get rid of it. You just have it for the entirety of your life. Now, a key thing to stay connected to is anything learned after birth goes against the definition of innate. Now, we can pick up skills and talents all day long. What we fail to understand is when we're picking up and learning new things, are they aligned with our innate gift? So if you are a leader of any sort, a boss, a manager, a supervisor, a parent, this even goes to kids. If you call yourself a big sister, a big brother, it is imperative that you try to learn the innate gifts of those who look up to you. By not focusing in on people's innate gifts, we set the world up for lackluster performance. We put people in environments that they have no business being in. There has been countless times to where I hear how people chase money. So this goes to the parents who could perhaps nudge their children into professions that they believe would give them financial stability. So this is nudging kids to go into being a lawyer, go into being a doctor, going into engineering. The trade-off could potentially be mental stability. And as a supervisor or manager, putting employees in environments to where they have no business being in, the trade-off related to that could be company performance. It can also lead to employee resignations. Then as a big brother or big sister, your younger siblings can look at you with resentment. If you're pushing them into doing activities that are not in alignment with their innate gifts, you can set them up to where you break their spirit, to where they can't look into the mirror and look at themselves with any type of self-validation. So the work that we all should be doing is not trying to make people into what we want them to be. The work we all should be doing is trying to better understand our personal innate gifts and those around us, so we can all ensure that all of us are in the right environment to where our innate gifts are valued and leveraged for the betterment of society. So now we get to the meat and potatoes of the video. How do I figure out what my innate gift is? And to re-emphasize, please don't fall into the trap of thinking that your gift is something that was learned throughout life. Again, this is something that you were born with. So if you take the example of Superman, you can fall into the trap of saying that his gift is saving people. That is not his gift. His gift is he can run fast. His gift is he can fly. The outlet is that he used it to be a superhero. So here's how we figure out what it is. So first bullet point, not many people in your circle will likely have your gift. And if you check out the astrology video, I can tell you why that is. The second point is that it will come easy to you. It's like you won't even be aware when you are doing it. Now, this is where I believe most people fail at identifying their gift, only because it comes so easy. I believe the mindset is, since it seems so easy, why would anybody pay me to do this thing I can do? But to me, that is exactly why they would pay you tons of money, is because it comes so easy to you and not other people. So when they put you in the right environment, they set you up to compete with other people trying to do what you can do. But since it comes easy to you and you are in the right environment, you're more set up to run laps around some of the competition. I would even venture out to say the majority of the competition. Now, the third point I have captured here is about trying to gauge other people and understanding the contrast difference between you and them. At times, they would compliment you. They would see something that you're busying yourself with, and they would be amazed by it. Other times, it would be you watching them. Something that they're doing that deep down inside, you know that, hey, I just don't do that. But it's amazing to watch somebody else and how easy they can do it. Now, examples can be introvert, extrovert. People loving to be the center of attention. People who have this magnificent attention to detail. Other people who always like to help other people. These are all indicators of an innate gift. You lose time when you engage in it. Now, I like this one because this is just so clear-cut of an indicator of an innate gift. Have you ever spent time doing something to where you look up and wonder where the time has gone? 5 hours has passed by, but in your mind, in your world, it feels like only 1 hour. Now, I have an 8-year-old daughter. And when you're somebody who studies the principles of human progress, I don't think there's a better subject to observe other than a child. And I say this because children don't get paid for what they do. If they're able to enjoy their childhood and just live as free as possible, they are typically acting impulsively time and time again. So if you are to really try to establish the innate gifts of your kids, it's easy. All you have to do is observe and listen to their topics of choice. Also, pay attention to what they're highly curious about. Figuring out the innate gifts of adults is a little different game. They've been tampered with throughout life. So it's a little bit more challenging because you have many people walking around here portraying to be something that they are not. Which takes us to the next point. If anyone attempts to suppress your gift, you become highly irritable. So in my observations and studies on human nature, balance becomes very important here. I've observed that when you take somebody so far out of their element, things can become chaotic. You can use the analogy of when you take a fish out of water. You take something out of its environment, it is extremely uncomfortable. So, in dealing with adults, when you are witnessing depression, anxiety, anger, discomfort, it is fair to pose the question of whether or not this person is in their right environment. And finally, you would almost be glad to do it for free when asked. Now, the observations and studies associated with doing something for free is that people really like to be challenged, but they only like to be challenged when they're in their environment. My personal example relates to puzzles, tabletop puzzles. Now, because I love puzzles, it does not necessarily mean I want an easy puzzle. Do not give me a 25-piece puzzle. Do not give me a 50-piece puzzle. If you want to pique my interest, the starting level for puzzles for me would be 1,000 pieces. That is where I would sit and I would lose time. I would not get up to go to the bathroom. I would not get up to go get something to eat. I would sit there and be focused on that puzzle as long as I possibly can until I become irritable because my body is just telling me to get some rest or get something to eat or go to the bathroom. So to be clear, I do believe that people appreciate challenges only if it aligns with their innate gifts. It has to be something related to their nature, their environment. If you force it, you can potentially have the trade-off of quality. You can also be engaging in inefficient use of human resources because I would imagine it would take somebody longer to produce the expected quality when the activity ties to something outside of their natural abilities. So look out for complaints. Complaints are a telltale sign when somebody is starting to be pulled outside of their natural environment. Complaints are gifts. And I can't stress this enough. Communication is key. The goal is to get the language right to where it resonates with you. If you cannot get the language right, then you can lead yourself astray. If you try to allow others to get the language right for you, but it still does not resonate, they could also lead you astray. I highly recommend taking the time to do the self-reflection and go over and over and over again, trying to establish what the right language is for your innate gifts. So how do I develop it? Plot twist. But seriously, you don't develop it. You're born with it. What you really have to do is learn how to control it after identifying it. So 3 things are at play here. It's identifying what the innate gift is. It is learning how to control it and then leveraging that to create value for yourself and society. And that, my friends, is how you make life easy. So I myself have a superpower, but I want to take you along on the journey that I went on to figuring out what that gift is. So if I were to go back to my childhood, I was the type of child who was an introvert. I spent a lot of time observing. My curiosity centered around how things worked. If I were to relate it to people, it centered around why people did what they did. Thinking back on what I busied myself with, I spent a lot of time taking things apart, putting them back together. I spent a lot of time playing with Legos, playing with puzzles. And then if you fast forward to my choice of study in college, I knew I wanted to do something in engineering, but it was kind of a toss-up, and what swayed me the most was electricity. So still that curiosity of trying to understand how things work I was fascinated by the ability to flick a switch on one side of the room and making something happen on the other side. So I decided to go to school for electrical engineering. So after getting my electrical engineering degree, I was afforded the opportunity to work for a global company in the engineering department, and eventually I worked my way up to becoming a supervisor. So being a supervisor, I really took that to heart. I was always an advocate of high performing teams. I was always looking to set whatever team I was on, whether it was me being an individual contributor or me supporting others. I always wanted the team to come together and perform at a high level. So being in the role of a supervisor, I started to think about the influence that I had over people's careers, and also the influence that I had over people's compensation, which ties into their quality of life or their livelihood, their family lives. So I really took, being a supervisor to heart. But then I got to thinking, if the ultimate goal of a supervisor is to create an environment for your direct reports to thrive, how do you do that? How do you connect to somebody's unique talents if you haven't connected to your own? How do I shape somebody else's environment for them to thrive if I'm not sure how to shape the environment for myself? So all of these questions led me back to a self-reflection. Now, while I'm in this self-reflection state of mind, it happened to be during the 2020 presidential election. At the time of the inauguration in January is when I had my awakening moment. And it was actually watching a certain piece of the inauguration. So I credit Amanda Gordon. When Amanda Gordon delivered that poem during the inauguration, I literally forgot that I was watching an inauguration. In that moment, it had me stop and ask myself, when do I ever captivate an audience in that regard? It had me ask myself, when do you lose time? And I thought back a few weeks earlier to where I lost time doing a 1,000-piece puzzle with my daughter over a 2-week Christmas break from work. So I started to pull the thread that triggered me to lose time whenever I engaged in a 1,000-piece puzzle. So what I found after pulling the thread long enough is that my innate gift is keen focus. Whenever I lock my attention in on something and turn my engagement up close to 100%, I typically figure out whatever it is I need to figure out, or I solve whatever puzzle, whatever mystery that I'm looking to solve. And after I was able to articulate clearly what my innate gift was, this was the light switch going on inside of me to where I looked at everything that I engaged in at work as a puzzle. And when I looked at it as a puzzle, that turned on a whole nother energy, a whole different type of performance. So it's that easy. My superpower is keen focus and solving puzzles. So don't overcomplicate it. Over the last few years, I've been reading a lot. I've gathered many pieces to the puzzle we call life, and now I'm bringing those pieces back to you to inspire a paradigm shift in how we think about life in general. Maslow and Management has been foundational in my search for meaning, which is another good book by Viktor Frankl, actually titled Man's Search for Meaning. But Maslow and Management focuses on self-actualization, a fancy term for each of us to stare ourselves in the mirror and figure out who we are so we don't navigate the world by being a burden because we ended up doing the wrong work in life and it destroys our spirit. So if you're looking for even more guidance on figuring out your innate gifts, I would recommend this book. It's a page turner, but as the disclaimer stated, this is not for everyone. So if this book doesn't resonate with you, that is one indicator about your innate gift saying you're cold in the pursuit of the right environment. So stay aware of other activities in which you get more satisfaction, then you'll be on the right track. With all that's been said, this is the key message. Everyone has a superpower that they leverage all the time. Pay attention to that one thing that comes easy to you and fulfills you when you are doing it. Don't try to be like someone else. Owning your identity is the source of your power. It leads to authenticity, which further leads to trust and respect. And then comes the money. People will pay you for that thing that comes easy to you. But first you have to identify what it is and make sure you describe it in your language as simple as possible so it sticks. And since I'm trying to establish a long-term relationship with my viewers, here are a few tidbits about yours truly. Thanks again for tuning in. Knowledge is power.
This is your last chance. After this, there is no turning back. You take the blue pill. The story ends. You wake up in your bed and believe whatever you want to believe. You take the red pill. You stay in Wonderland. And I show you how deep the rabbit hole goes.